Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the first episode of Break Check for the RLCS 22-23 season. It's going to be a freaking awesome season. This past weekend, we had our first events. We're going to go ahead and talk about those for a little bit. But before we do, let's jump right into the first topic, which is the new RLCS season. We're going to touch on some off-season shenanigans. As you can see on the screen, I think right over here, actually, Zen has been signed to Vitality. He's not even eligible to play until February of 2023. And obviously, this is notable because this doesn't happen too often. So, happened in the offseason, locked up Zen. Vitality looking to make a long-term play. Hopefully, they can put themselves in a position to find success early on in the season. So, when Zen joins for the spring split, they can still be contending for a Worlds position. We also have Nupo concerning a young player. Unfortunately, he is banned, and it is a very similar situation as Zen, where he tried to play on someone else's account before he was eligible, before he was 15. And that unfortunately means that Nupo and Winters as well will miss the RLCS 22-23 season. So that is a real bummer. He was planned to team with the twins in MENA, Rawas and Kaliers. Obviously, awful news, but hopefully he will bounce back stronger next season with a little bit more time to grind. Last thing I want to talk about and touch on before we start is this offseason, there were a few refinements, a few changes made to the format, the structure, the circuit in general. So we're still keeping our 3 splits, 3 events per split, but they are getting a little bit more uniform. They are all going to be called Fall Open for every region, Fall Cup, and Fall Invitational. So that's going to be 1, 2, and 3. And obviously in the following splits, they will just be called the Winter Open or the Spring Invitational. So that's going to bring some uniformity to things, which I think is great. Standardization always helps understand things a little bit better. Each split will continue to feature a new format. Each event will be capped at a 16-team, participation. The top 8 will be qualified into the event. The bottom 8, at least for the first 2 events of the split, will qualify through the closed qualifiers. And this is actually one of the changes that is the most significant for this next season. The third event for each split is now an invitational. That's part of the naming. And so what that means is the top 16 teams in overall RLCS points will be invited to that third regional. And I'm not going to spend a ton of time talking about this because we haven't seen it all unfold and play out just yet. But I do think that this is going to put a lot of weight on the beginning of the season. And my reason being is when you qualify, or I should say, when you miss qualification for this first event, or even place 9 through 16, you have to requalify for the second event. And obviously, the first and second events are very important to getting into that third event for the fall regional. And that can put you in a really good place points-wise moving forward. And obviously, if you're one of those top teams and you're contending for majors and worlds, getting into that first major and being one of those teams that has your spot solidified with those top 16 points is going to be, I think it's going to prove to be pretty important, which I do think long-term is maybe going to have teams trying to solidify their game plan a little bit sooner in the offseason. That way they can walk into the RLCS season in form and not be trying to figure things out. We're going to see how that plays out, but a change for this season is third regional of each split is now an invitational. And again, let me make it clear. It's based off top 16 in RLCS points in total points, okay? So right now, obviously in the fall, the top 16 are just going to be the teams that have done the best in the top or in the first 2 events. But then when we get into spring, there are going to be some teams that maybe had a slow start, or maybe they had a great start and then they've kind of slowed down, but they still have enough points to qualify for straight into that spring regional 3. So again, I don't know exactly how it's going to play out. I have some ideas, but we'll see what that means and the implications of that moving forward into future seasons. The last thing that I do want to touch on is Apac North and Apac South have now been merged into one region. Again, I don't really know how that is going to change things long term. I feel like up front, it's probably going to make the teams grow a little bit faster because when they are segmented off and split off, it's just going to split talent up further. And now that they all are combined together in one region, I think it's going to hopefully elevate that top level a little bit, which will kind of drag everyone else up with them. So there's some of your changes for the new season. and we're going to continue on with this new discussion. And we're going to talk about some of the new teams, some of the new rosters, some of the new organizations, and even some teams in new regions in general. We'll start with NA because this was quite the shakeup this offseason. We had Space Station removing Riddles, adding LJ. We had version 1 staying the same. We had G2 staying the same. We have Complexity, a fun move here. They ended up removing Shad from his team, removing Shad from their roster and adding CRR. CRR, obviously from Europe. We have Optic bringing in a whole new roster, 3 players from 3 different teams. We have AJ from FaZe, we have Reddles from Space Station, and we have Magic Bear last season who was on Torrent. We have FaZe, who, as I just mentioned, they did remove AJ from their roster. They added Mist. We have Rogue, no changes. We have Dignitas, first org moving from Europe over to NA, and the same thing here, grabbing 3 players from 3 different rosters previous season, Andy, Drees, and Delta. And Dignitas, new roster, looked pretty good in the first event as well. NRG decided no changes. Rebellion added 2-piece alongside Memory and Parth. We have Pittsburgh Knights bringing ZPS back into the squad with Sosa and Cheese. We have Gen G Mobile One Racing, and this is a fun one as well. We have Appjack and Nolly moving from Europe to North America, and they add Chronic to the roster, and then obviously Gen G is a brand new org as well. So we have 2 players from Europe, a brand new org, and Chronic, obviously a North American player, but he's relatively new, at least to the top 10 area of North American teams. He has made it into a few different regionals with a couple of different rosters, if I'm not mistaken, and a great talent, and I'm really glad that he's getting a chance with some top talent as well under Gen G. We have Furia, exciting. This is the 2nd season straight now where a South American team has opted to move to North America in favor of better competition and just trying to further their career. We have Kaio, Card, and Yan, or Yanks, whichever you like to say. Furia in North America, fun stuff. Luminosity, another org from Europe, moving over to North America and grabbing some players as well to make a new team. Lion Blaze, Kinsei, and Alraz. We got Coach Rams as well. Nice shout, another European recruit. Soul. This is a bubble team in the North American scene comprised of Drewy, Knight, and Stealth. Very talented roster. Definitely want to keep an eye on them moving forward. We have Team Axel, which is ex-Oxygen with Gimmick and Toasty, and they have added Ajax alongside them. Obviously, there are a few more rosters that are just outside the top 16 for this main event. Notably, we have All Mid, or now they are Frequents. They are no longer under that banner. That is Flitz, Kiri, Angel. We have Lil Step Bros, which is Creams, Alpha Kep, and Spider. No changes there to either of those rosters. We also do have Dark Zero, which is Turbo, Zenil, and J-Pow. And once again, Dark Zero is another new organization. They were unfortunately unable to make this first main event, but we might see them again in the future. So NA, definitely some shakeups. Like I said, some new orgs. We got some new players from other regions, and obviously some shakeup within the North American scene itself. Now, we're going to jump over to EU, which definitely was exciting as well. We have Oxygen Esports, an org that was in North America, over in EU now, picking up Archie, Oli, and Joriez. Exciting team. They performed really well in a closed qual. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. We've got Evil Geniuses, Catalysm, and Ivan sticking together, and they're bringing on Tox, and they're bringing on Coach Verge. Shout out to Coach Verge as well. Moist Esports did end up making a change to the surprise of many. We have Vatira leaving the team of Moist, and they have replaced him with Astral alongside Rise and Joyo. Excited to see that team perform in this next season as well. We have G1, or Gamers First, new organization. They have signed the team of Marked by 8, Atomic, and Dorito. Excited to see that team. BDS is going to stick to the same team. We have K-Corp, which has made some changes. Again, a little bit of a surprise to some folks. They end up removing Astral, and they end up removing Nolly as well. As we talked about, he moved over to North America. And they have kept Itachi and built around him, adding Vatira and Exotic, a highly anticipated roster for this season as well. Team Liquid. They have stayed the same. Chronic, Oski, and Atto. Monkeys, Arju and Matane, they have added Smokes, an upcoming talent around the EU bubble level. Maybe deserving an opportunity sooner, but nonetheless, he is here. And they did quite well to start things off, qualifying straight into the main event from the top 16 invitational qualifier. We have Endpoint with Devo, Simas, and Crispy. We have Williams Resolve signing a new roster of Breezy Flame and Noasaki. We have Solary picking up the veterans of KDOP, Fairy Peak and Chaussette. Obviously, K-Dot being removed from Vitality. We have Guild Esports with a new roster. Stake, Luis P, and Acro. We have Top Blokes, who is now Casio alongside RizX and Raziers. Goldbridge Ball, Relating Wave, Ixo, and Cash. AO Giddy, which is the same team as last season, VK Salen, Asalan, and Stizzy. And now we have Sonics jumping across the pond as well with Tho, Mike Boy, and Metsonoris. And just as we said earlier, there are obviously some teams that unfortunately did not make it into the main event, namely and most importantly, Vitality. Wow. The roster of Alpha 54, Radosin, and they signed Sizen up until the point that Zen can play. We don't know who he is going to step in for, as I am assuming he's going to play on the starting roster when he does find his spot. But unfortunately, they missed the main event for the first regional of the RLCS 22-23 season. And we will talk about that in just a little bit, but wow. All right, and we are going to take a look at Apac. Apac, again, as I mentioned previously, merging the two regions. We do have an exciting roster to kick things off. We have a roster named James Cheese. And this is Virtuoso, yes, European Virtuoso. This is Kami, yes. Oceania, Kami, that's correct. And Realize, all three players from three different regions heading over to Apac, and they have performed quite well, to say the least. Exciting stuff there. Detonator staying the same. And a few of these other rosters, I'm going to be honest, I'm not super familiar with if they made changes or not. But nonetheless, I think Apac is definitely going to be exciting. We've got Godspeed here, Balaris, Kevin, and Misty. We've got Gaming Gladiators, or Gaming Gladiators. I'm not sure how to say it, but this is one I wanted to touch on as well, with LCT and Max U bringing OSM as well, moving from Europe over to Apac. So like I said, a few more to keep your eyes on, but definitely a fun time, an exciting time for Apac as well. Now, we're going to take a look at MENA, and I don't know that there were any move-ins, but there definitely is a couple of things that we want to mention. Team Falcons has obviously stayed the same. KRN, it was supposed to be Kalirs, Rawas, and Nupo, a very hotly anticipated talent. And Nupo, unfortunately, as I mentioned earlier, was banned. They replaced him with Natter, I think is how I say it, and they have gotten off to a great start, to say the least. We'll cover that in just a few moments. Geeke, maybe, is impressive. Twiz and Tellum is, I think, how I say this. I'm sorry if I said it wrong. Twisted Minds, Zizonix, Ams, and Mawson. Few other teams as well we want to keep our eyes on. Veloce, SMW, and Senzo. They add Basil to the roster. But I think that the thing that we want to focus on is the fact that MENA is definitely not going to be 9 for 9 for the Falcons. In fact, they've already missed one. We'll talk about that in just a few moments. But Falcons got some competition this season, in MENA. I do want to touch on just a couple here. Pioneers is going to stay the same, and Team Power has added Fever from Renegades alongside Torsos and Amphis. I think these two teams will probably have a good hold on the Oceanic region. We do have Ground Zero here with Kaka, Finn, and Shores, and a few others that, once again, you do want to keep your eyes on. A few of these teams are definitely capable of upsetting the top tier talent, but that is what we're looking at for OCE. And then last but not least, we have Sam as well, with Team Secret making a change, adding KV1 to the roster alongside Knight and Sad. We have the club making a change, adding Bims from Crew Esports in place of KV1. So Bims, Lost, and Astromic will be the club. We have Crew with Drufino, Drops, and Shad. Shad has made his way back to South America to join the Crew roster. And like I said, definitely want to keep your eyes on some of these rosters. Or like I said, with the previous couple of regions, there are definitely some teams that are anticipated to take things in their region, but you certainly don't want to underestimate some of this tier 2, or just maybe not tier 2, but just a little bit lesser known teams. Keep your eyes on them, because again, I don't think South America is going to be, or I do think that South America is going to have some depth and some challengers as well. So let's go ahead and hop over to Fall Open discussion. We're going to talk about MENA, and I did mention it. We got KRN taking down the Falcons, not just once, but twice throughout this event. Last season, Falcons went 9 for 9 in regionals, lost very few series, and now KRN off to an incredible start, Falcons are going to play second. We've got Geeke in third, Veloce in fourth. Twisted Minds down here in that 5th through 8th spot. MENA, as I said, definitely going to be a little bit more of a, at least a 2-horse race at the very least. And I think 3 through 8 is definitely going to be challenging from time to time for Falcons and KRN. So keep your eyes on MENA this season. Apac, James Cheese, the roster of Virtuoso, Kami, and Realize. A very dominant performance, and we're going to look at that in just a few moments when we get to the top performers segment. But, wow, Apac, they're going to have to step it up if they want to dethrone James Cheese. Detonator coming in second, Gladiators in third, and Godspeed in fourth. Let's take a look at NA. We've got FaZe taking the very first regional, just like last season, and Gen G, a little bit of a surprise here. I'm sure there are folks that were not anticipating Gen G at the top. I knew they'd be a great team, and myself included. I'm a little bit surprised by the Grand Finals placement, Grand Finals finish. Well done to Gen G. They definitely look great, and they deserve that top 2 finish. G2 and Space Station in third and fourth. Those are the 2 teams that I anticipated being in the finals. I knew FaZe could be in there as well, but FaZe, a little bit of a shaky start with the top 16 invitational qualifier, while Space Station and G2 handled things a little bit more cleanly. Nonetheless, they did finish third and fourth. We've got Furia, Optic, Version 1, and Shopify Rebellion in that 5th through 8th spot. And Rebellion has come out swinging. They didn't even get invited to the top 16 invitational qualifier, the 17th seed for this event, and they place in the top 8. Well done to Rebellion. The pickup of 2-piece has really proven to be a fantastic one. And we've got that 9th through 11th slot being filled by Complexity, NRG, and PK. Shout out to PK. Definitely a great start to the season. After last season, definitely having some bumps on the road and struggles along the way. This is a great start to the 22-23 season. 12 through 14, we have Dig, Soul, and Team Axel. Dig and Axel, I think this is probably going to be, they're going to be in this 9 through 16 spot quite a bit. Occasional finishes maybe in the top 8. Great rosters, though, and I expect him to remain in this position. Soul, we'll see if they can continue this consistency. Obviously, they will, they will have to qualify again into regional number 2, but I think they're a great team with a bright future, and we'll see how they fare throughout the season. We got Rogue and Luminosity pulling up the final spots of 15th and 16th. Not the greatest performance from these rosters, but plenty of time to improve. It is the first event of the season. So NA, definitely as deep as it's ever been. I think we genuinely have, 9 or so teams that can contend for majors. Obviously, there are some that you feel more confident in. I think at this point, with these rosters placing so well, I think they're in a great position. Space Station, G2, and FaZe, many people had predicted them. And then those final 2 spots are a little bit of a toss-up. You think V1 might have a shot. You had teams like Furia up there, Optic, potentially Gen G as well. Now they have obviously given themselves a great start. But Complexity and NRG, not teams to be forgotten about, to say the least, though they are going to have to bounce back strong here in regional number 2 if they want a chance at making that fall major. And the thing that I wanted to talk about is that race. And I do want to expand a little bit on my point earlier about this good start to the season and how imperative it is. As you can see, the top 8 are already qualified, and not only into event number 2, the Fall Cup, but they have already made event number 3. And that just means that they will be in the top 16, even if version 1, with their 6 points in Fall Open, if they only get 2 in the Fall Cup, they are automatically invited to the Fall Invitational. So they are in a great place. They can kind of rest easy relative to some of these other teams which have nothing guaranteed, not even the next event. They have to go back through closed qualifier. So as I said earlier, I think that the offseason, we're going to see the meta shift a little bit around the offseason. Teams are going to try to finish things up a little bit sooner to give themselves some time to practice and scrim and prep for the season, because event number 1 is so critical for this first split. And then when you zoom out further and you're looking at the full season, this first split is so critical for finding success later on in the season and in the year. So implications for the major race, huge here in North America, especially with so many teams that can now genuinely contend for that spot. And this is true for Europe as well as any of these other regions. This is just one of the, we're going to take a look at NA because NA has already finished one event. We'll glance at EU and the implications of the results of the EU Fall Open as well next week. So tune in again. But that's going to be it for that section there. Let's go ahead and take a look at the top performers in these events. Shout out to Octane GG. Do want to say thank you to them for always putting these stats together and these graphics so easy to look at. We've got Rawas finishing with a 1.3 rating, averaging over 1 goal a game and over 2.5 saves per game as well. Rawas playing quite well. I do want to go ahead and shout Kalir's in the 3 spot. Both of the twins in that top 3. Kalir's also averaging over 1 goal a game, 1.5 saves per game, and a rating of 1.22. HMO averaging over 1 goal per game, rating of 1.2. We got Basil in the 4 spot, SMW in the 5 spot. Incredible stuff here in the MENA region. As I said, I definitely think it's getting a lot deeper. And we don't see any Ahmad. We don't see any Khaled. We don't see any TRK in this top 10. And while sure some of these teams maybe didn't make the finals, and it is obviously a team game, team performance, I think this indicates some talent getting much stronger in the Middle East, North Africa region. Take a look at Apac. Now, this is what I wanted to mention earlier when we took a look at James Cheese. We got Virtuoso, Realize, and Kami. All 3 top 3 performers of the event on the same team. Holy moly. You want to talk about domination? Virtuoso with a 1.8 rating, Realize with a 1.5, and Kami with a 1.4. Wow. All 3 averaging over 1 goal a game, with Virtuoso clearing 2. All 3 averaging over 1 assist per game. I mean, holy moly. Absolutely insane performance. We do have OSM, another EU import, coming in that 4 spot. LCT and Max U also on the Gladiators in the 8 and 10 spot. But once again, just showing you some depth here. Some teams that were not even in the finals, or I'm sorry, some players that were not even in the finals, making it on this board as well. So depth across the world increasing. And we got North America top 10 performers as well. First Killer with an absolutely stunning performance. If you did not watch this regional, you have got to at least watch Sunday and watch First Killer against G2. Watch First Killer in the finals. Unreal performance. I think at the moment it is undisputable. First Killer, currently the best player in North America, potentially the world. We've got Appjack coming in that number 2 spot, doing great stuff for Gen G. We have AJ in the number 3 spot for Optic, all 3 with over a 1.0 rating. I guess actually all the top 10. But yeah, this looks about like you'd expect. I think the one little bit of a surprise, and this is no knock, but Squishy being here in the top 6. And I think this is something that we need to praise here because NRG, while, look, it's still not the NRG of old where we expect top 4 every single event. They did fall out 9th through 11th, but Squishy was getting activated on offense, and I think he was bringing something to the table that we haven't seen from him in a little while. And NRG definitely did look better than they have of late, but still not enough. They're going to have to continue improving if they want to contend for that major and get back to that spot where they belong in the top 5. All right, last thing, but certainly not least, EU closed qual. And I just want to go ahead and highlight it because it's down there at the bottom. Vitality miss the main event. Holy moly. Folks, think about this. In event number 2, the Fall Cup for Europe, any and everyone can sign up for open quals, excuse me. That means you could have silvers trying to jump into the main event. Now, obviously, we know that they're not going to make it in. But the point that I want to make is Alpha 54 and Vitality have to go through the same struggles and hurdles, and they have to go through the same gauntlet that silver player would have to. They are starting in open qualification. I cannot believe what I just said. I cannot believe what I just said. Vitality. Plenty. Maybe that's not the right word. A ton of room to improve. They have got to get it together as soon as possible if they want to remain a threat this season. Anyways, we'll take a look. We do have Endpoint, Williams, Solary, Guild, Top Blokes, Goldbridge Ball, Sonics, and Auguri qualifying into the main event for Europe Fall Open. And we're just going to take a glance down here at the results. Endpoint, Williams Resolve going 3-0. And let's just take a look here, because Williams Resolve, I mean, you got to feel for them, okay? You got to feel for them. We got the top 16 invitational qualifier, and I just want to show you this. I want you to take a glance at Williams Resolve here in this 11 spot, and I want you to look at who they had to play. Liquid, Moist, Oxygen, BDS, K-Corp. Let's take a look at who the top 5 seeds for the event were. BDS, Moist, K-Corp, Liquid, and Oxygen. Poor Williams Resolve literally had to play the top 5 teams in the top 16 invitational qualifier, and they played them well. Williams Resolve, the roster of Breezy, Flame, and Noasaki, definitely proving their value early in the season, going through with a 3-0 and a closed qual. Shout out to them. Can't wait to see what they do in the main event. We've got Solary, K-Dop, Fairy Peak, 2 previous Vitality players, and Shawset qualifying 3-1. We've got Guild and Top Blokes going through that 3-1 in that 4th round as well. And then in the 5th and final round, we got Goldbridge Ball, Sonics, and Aogiri qualifying as well. Vitality falling out 2 and 3. We've got our team named Old Farts, BS Plus Competition, Heat, Grow Noobs, One Chip Army, Zoom Zoom, and SK Gaming all falling out of the top 16. If you want to take a look at some of these rosters, Gek, Just Us, and Karka. Old Farts is Speed, Tigray, and Yukio. BS Plus is Elexit, Bluey, and Gom. I want to give a shout out to Gom, up-and-coming talent. Excited to see him play. SK, we got Scrub, Rye, and Nas. Grow Noob is Yukis, Whiskey Drink, and Econ. One Chip Army is Toxic, Davoof, and Chippy. We also have Heat up here with Parka, Foris, Juicy, and then obviously Vitality with Alpha, Radosin, and Sizen. So unfortunately, those teams missing out on the main event for Europe. If you do want to go ahead and take a look at how this is going to unfold, we can glance at round number 1, and then we'll go ahead and close the show. It may not be announced yet, but it's going to be the top team versus the bottom, and so on and so forth. So Oxygen Sonics, EG Aogiri, Moist, Goldbridge Ball, G1, Top Blokes, BDS, Guild, K-Corp, Solary, Liquid, Resolve, Monkeys, Endpoint. So Europe coming up this next weekend. North America, MENA, and Apac has concluded. And that is going to be it for the first episode of Break Check for the RLCS 22-23 season. I'm excited for this season to kick off. If you don't, come watch the stream. We talk about this stuff on a daily basis. We got fantasy leagues rocking. We're checking out stats. It's all fun and games, so come hang out with us, twitch.tv/Hoodyhooo. That's going to be it. We will catch you all next time.